You wake up tired, not physically, mentally. Before your feet touch the floor, your hand reaches for your phone. A small hit of stimulation, just to start the day. No one calls it dopamine, but that's what it is. Somewhere along the way, dopamine became a villain. The chemical blamed for addiction, distraction, endless scrolling, and shrinking attention spans. Especially for Gen Z, the first generation raised inside the feed. But dopamine was never designed to trap you. It was designed to move you. So what changed? Dopamine is often described as the pleasure chemical. That sounds simple, clean, almost harmless. It isn't accurate. Dopamine doesn't reward you after success. It rises before action. It fuels anticipation. It pushes you towards something that might matter. That uncertainty is important. Your brain releases dopamine not when you receive a reward, but when you expect one. The notification, the message, the opportunity, the possibility of social approval. Expectation becomes energy, and energy, when directed well, builds progress. But when scattered, it builds craving. Pause for a moment. How often do you feel motivated without knowing exactly why? That quiet urge to check, to refresh, to see if something new happened. That isn't weakness, it's wiring. The same system that once helped humans search for food, explore new environments, and build social bonds, now responds to digital signals. And digital signals are abundant, immediate, infinite. Your brain hasn't evolved for infinity. Apps understand this. They don't manufacture dopamine. They trigger anticipation loops, variable rewards, intermittent reinforcement. You don't know what the next swipe will bring. That unpredictability amplifies dopamine release. Sometimes the content is meaningful. Sometimes it's empty. But the anticipation feels the same. Gen Z grew up in an environment where dopamine spikes are constant. Short videos, fast edits, viral trends, instant feedback. The pace is relentless. But here's the contradiction. Dopamine is also responsible for long-term goals. Studying for exams, building a business, training for a sport, writing music, learning a skill. The same chemical fuels discipline and distraction. So why does it feel like a trap? Because the system rewards immediacy. Long-term goals release dopamine slowly. They require delayed gratification, effort, friction, uncertainty without instant validation. Digital platforms offer the opposite. Immediate reward, low effort. Endless novelty. The brain adapts to the faster cycle, and once it adapts, slower rewards feel dull. This is where motivation begins to distort. You might think you lack discipline, that your attention span is broken, that your generation is uniquely unfocused. But consider another possibility. What if your motivational system has simply been trained toward short loops instead of long arcs? Dopamine strengthens whatever behavior precedes reward. If scrolling precedes stimulation, scrolling is reinforced. If studying precedes slow progress, and progress feels invisible, the loop weakens. Not because you're incapable, but because the feedback cycle is misaligned. Here's something rarely discussed. Dopamine does not create satisfaction. It creates pursuit. After the reward arrives, dopamine drops. That drop is subtle, often unnoticed, but it leaves a quiet restlessness. So you seek again. Another video, another message, another small hit of novelty. This isn't addiction in a dramatic sense. It's repetition in a frictionless environment. And repetition rewires perception. Over time, baseline stimulation rises. Silence feels uncomfortable. Boredom feels threatening. Stillness feels empty. But boredom once served a purpose. It allowed the mind to wander, to imagine, to process emotion, to form original thought. When boredom disappears, creativity can shrink with it. This is not about blaming technology. It is about understanding incentive structures. Platforms are optimized for engagement. Engagement is measurable. Time spent is profitable. The faster and more frequently dopamine loops are triggered, the longer attention remains captured. That's efficiency. But efficiency for whom? The critical question is not whether dopamine is good or bad. It is directional. What you repeatedly pursue becomes what you value. What you value shapes identity, and identity shapes future decisions. So where is your dopamine pointing? Toward quick reactions or slow construction? There's another layer. When you pursue meaningful goals, dopamine works differently. It spikes in anticipation of progress, small milestones, improvement, growth. The loop is longer, but it is deeper. It builds competence, confidence, autonomy. The problem is not dopamine itself. It's what competes for it. If your environment constantly offers easier rewards, the brain will gravitate toward them. That's efficiency again. Conservation of energy. But awareness changes the equation. When you understand that motivation isn't broken, just redirected, you regain leverage. You can introduce friction, turn off notifications, delay checking messages, schedule focused blocks without stimulation. At first, it feels uncomfortable. That discomfort is recalibration. Your baseline lowers. Slow rewards begin to register again. Reading becomes immersive. Practice feels satisfying. Conversations deepen. The mind settles. Dopamine begins working for you instead of pulling you sideways. This is not a moral argument. It's neurological. Your brain responds to environment. Change the environment, and behavior follows. Gen Z doesn't need fear about dopamine. It needs clarity. The same system that fuels scrolling can fuel mastery. The same anticipation that keeps you refreshing a feed can keep you building something meaningful, but only if you notice where it's currently aimed. Tonight, when you feel that quiet urge to check your phone, pause for a second. Ask yourself, is this pursuit intentional or automatic? Where else could this energy go? Not in a dramatic way, not as a complete detox, just one redirected moment. Because dopamine is not your enemy, it is momentum. The question is simple but uncomfortable. Who is deciding where that momentum flows? And if the answer feels unclear, perhaps that is the place to begin the conversation. Look at your habits closely. Notice what consistently captures your anticipation. Then ask yourself, what kind of future does that pattern build? The truth Gen Z needs to hear is that one person must be steered. The direction can change, but only if you decide to turn it.